So JoJolion is finally coming to a close after 10 years, and yeah, I didn't even expect it to be ending this year. Or at least now, because I thought we would be getting a few more chapters after Tooru's defeat because of how underwhelming he was. Yeah, Tooru definitely felt plain as the main villain, for me at least, but I'll talk about that later in the video. But I can say that I loved JoJolion's story and how weird and bizarre it was, which just appealed to me a lot. Well, I guess it just holds up to the name of the series. Alright, so for today's video, I'll be talking about my thoughts on JoJolion's ending and my overall thoughts on the part as well. Also, I can go ahead and give my thoughts on whether part 9 will be a thing or not. But right before I get into this video, subscribe if you haven't, hit the like button, turn on bell notifications, and follow my Twitter down below. So without further ado, let's get into the video.
Fighting
So the last chapter revealed that part 8 of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure would come to a close in chapter 110, which is the next chapter that is coming next month. Of course, me and many other fans of the series did not expect it to be ending at this point of the story, but as I looked back, it seemed like Araki had actually been making this arc the last one. In chapter 108, we had all seen Yasuho monologuing about how this story is about breaking a curse, which he had said in the very first chapter, which usually makes stories come in a full circle, basically the end of the journey. So knowing that, it kind of makes sense for the story to be coming to a close right now, but it doesn't really make the story come to a close in a perfect way. Not to say the ending is gonna be bad in any way, but there's a few unanswered questions that Araki may have chucked away. I'll talk about those unanswered questions later in the video though. Right now, I want to talk about chapter 109 and what I thought about the second last chapter of JoJolion. Chapter 109 was crazy but felt fresh. We're now back in the time where Lucy Steele from Steel Baron finds herself in Japan investigating the land of where the so-called Radio Gaga incident had happened. I was surprised Araki had brought up the idea of this incident in the second last chapter of the part, but I'm interested to see where he goes with it and how it will tie to the main story. Also, in this chapter we meet a character named Fumi, who of course might have some kind of relation to Josuke, someone who had fused with Kira to become Josuke. It's very likely he does have some kind of relation to him, as we know this Fumi person isn't from the Higashikata household. He might somehow be related to the Joestars though, and even be Joseph as people have theorized. Fumi is 17 as he said in the chapter, so that would mean he would have been born in 1924 as this chapter is set in 1941. 1924 is the year Joseph was born in this universe at least, as we saw in the family tree in early JoJolion, so it could mean that Fumi is the Joseph of this universe. Also, Fumi can be translated to Joseph like Josephumi, who is named after Joseph, which in Japanese is pronounced Josephu. That's one of the things that interested me the most about this chapter. The other thing was of course, well, a guardrail. The Radio Gaga incident, an incident that made people go crazy from hearing a talking guardrail. A lot of stuff happens with Lucy and Fumi investigating the guardrail, and eventually Lucy gets caught in this Gaga trap, getting stuck by its evil guardrail powers. But no, seriously, looking back at the last spread of chapter 109, there's a literal corpse inside of the guard, which is just disturbing really. But that makes it all the while bizarre, and I'm into that kind of stuff. Not the corpse bit though, just the bizarre part. I'm curious to see how Araki wraps up this confrontation in the flashback, and I'm hoping that the next chapter will have a lot of pages instead of the ordinary 40, maybe 60 at least. He can wrap up the flashback and the present story, and if Araki does use some more pages, then I can trust him to end off the part greatly, just like how he did with all the other parts. Yes, including part 5. But if Araki doesn't end up wrapping up the present time of JoJolion all too well, we'll end up with some unanswered mysteries that will make people go crazy. Talking about unanswered mysteries, there's a few unanswered questions that haven't been, well, answered yet, as the part comes to a close. There's been many people complaining about this, but personally it doesn't bother me as much as it does to the other people. The only thing that truly bothers me is how Tooru is the main villain, but like I said at the start of the video, I'll get to that. One unanswered thing that comes into mind in many people when talking about JoJolion is the legendary flashback man that we had saw in the earlier chapters of the part. This character of course has little to no relevance to the plot, but just because he looks important and had shown up in Josuke's head when he was going through his lost memories, just makes him so mysterious, and of course fans would want to know who exactly he is. Ever since that chapter, he had not shown up anywhere else, no mentioning or appearances of this flashback man, and I feel like he'll just stay like that and be a mystery to everyone to the very end. I would be happy to know who this person is as well, but I wouldn't really be too phased if it doesn't get revealed, as he basically doesn't have any character other than Josuke saw him. Another mystery that concerns many people on how it will come to light in the ending is the flash forward, which was also shown in chapter 83. The Wonder of You arc was basically a flashback 7 days prior to the harvest of the Rocker fruit, but the flash forward had shown some events after the arc, showing Tsurugi dragging Norisuke's body. I'm interested in how this ties into the current stuff that's happening in the present of JoJolion, as Norisuke was given to the ambulance, so how did Tsurugi end up with him? If this does get shown in the ending, I'd be very happy, as this is a major thing that I would want uncovered. If this doesn't, then I would be pretty disappointed. The flashback man isn't too big of a plot point like this one, so I really hope the flash forward comes to light in the ending. Now let's talk about Tooru and how much I disliked him as a main villain. I felt like Tooru could have had as much of a presence in the story as, let's say, his own stand. Wonder of You felt more frightening than its user, and I kind of feel like it's overall separated from Tooru as well, as we had seen it still move after Toru's death. Let's say Wonder of You and the power of its calamity was the true main villain of JoJolion, while Tooru was just a host. I really didn't want to dislike Toru's character, as I love his stand and I love the ideas of rock humans, but Tooru just didn't fit well with me for an actual final villain. I'd say he's comparable to someone like Kaz, but even then I consider the part 2 antagonist the Pillarman as a whole, and with Wamu there, I'd have him over Tooru. His personality falls flat for me, but the history surrounding him doesn't, at least. I love looking into the lore of the rock humans based on Toru's story, but the character we got from him felt kind of bland. This is just my opinion of course, and if you love Tooru, all good. But I don't know, I'm saying this for the 100th time, but he just didn't feel like a final JoJo villain. The others like Dio, Kira, Funny Valentine, they all do. I also surprisingly liked Diavolo with his Doppio personality paying into that, but Tooru for me can't match them. I feel like if we had a lot more time with his character and him not coming in at the last second, we could have gotten a better character. And with Diavolo, we got bits and pieces of his history even if he did come at the final battle, but Tooru just showed up in the final arc out of nowhere. Not gonna lie, I wouldn't have minded if Jobin had become the final villain, but seeing where Araki was going with the story, I understand why Jobin had to die. With me slandering Tooru this much, I still like his stand Wonder of You. It's one of my favorites actually, and I love the idea of how you can't approach it without calamities coming your way. Also, the Endless Calamity arc is the inspiration for my name, so I rate it. It's a great stand, and I also love the final arc as well. Even if the ending felt a bit rushed, I loved it. So moving on from that topic, let's talk about part 9, or if there's even gonna be a part 9. Araki is getting older and is at the age of 61. He's been doing JoJo's for a long time, and him growing older didn't decrease the greatness of his stories. So if there will be a part 9, I trust him to make it as great as his last parts. If he doesn't make part 9, it's entirely understandable though. He's 61, and if he needs a rest from all of that manga stuff, then he should go ahead, he deserves it. But going with the idea that there will be a part 9, it could be announced this year. Araki usually announces new parts in the same year of when his last part had ended, and he even starts that new part in that same year, which is crazy. It happened last time with JoJolion coming in the same year as when Steel Baron had ended. So if there will be a part 9, we could potentially expect an announcement this year, or even the part coming this year as well. I hope part 9 does come, but if it doesn't, like I said before, it's understandable. So that's where I'm going to end off the video for today. Hopefully you did enjoy, and if you did, make sure to comment some more JoJo related video ideas or just video ideas in general. But like always, subscribe if you haven't, hit the like button, turn on bell notifications, and follow my Twitter down below. Thanks Araki for creating JoJolion, it's been a fun journey to read. It's been Endless Requiem, peace.